Steve was incredible. He was very motivating. He really got the message across. And I think using Steve now as a spokesman, I think Safe America is going to be able to go a lot further in our mission to make a difference in safety.
How many lawyers in the room? 1, 2, 3. Okay, and what are some of the other positions? Any CEOs here? 1, 2 CEOs. Any leaders of people here? Okay, so we're all leaders of people, right? Some of us hold a CEO title, some of us don't. There was a CEO once, or could have been a managing partner of a law firm. He just got the job, and he was kind of scared. What does this mean? Now I'm the top dog, I can do whatever I want, say whatever I want, change whatever I want. He was really worried about it, so he asked his predecessor. He said, hey, any advice for me before I take the job? He goes, sure. He said, I prepared 3 envelopes for you. If you start getting into trouble, you open up the envelope, the first one, and if that doesn't work, you open up the second one. If you get into more trouble, God help you if you do, but there'll always be a 3rd envelope. So he took over the company, and it was a public company, and not long after he took over, the stock took a dive. And the shareholders are angry, the board's angry, goes, oh my God, what am I going to do now? So, I know, I'll open up the first envelope. So he opens up the first envelope, and it says, reorganize the company. Great, that always works. So he reorganized the whole company, and the stock went up, the shareholders were happy, everybody said, yeah, you're taking action. This is what I want you to do. Well, it wasn't long after that, stock took a dive again. Things got ugly again, the shareholders were mad again, the directors were after him. Well, what am I gonna do? You guys are here, give yourselves a hand. You guys are, this is an engaged crowd. I love to talk to people that really get it. Opens up the second envelope, and it says, blame your predecessor. I don't know how many times I've used that. It was great. So for a while it worked, stock went up, everything was great, but then what happened?
Stock went down.
I'll tell you what, Len, you said they were bright. You're right, they were bright. Stock went down, so what did he do?
Open number 3.
Open up number 3. What did number 3 say?
Quit.
Prepare 3 envelopes. As leaders, we don't want to have to prepare 3 envelopes, do we? So what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to have a leadership that is good for times ahead. We want to be engaging with our people. We want our people to feel enlightened. We want our people to be empowered, don't we? And that's the way to lead an organization. I don't care if it's a law firm or it's a not-for-profit or it's a manufacturing company. Oh, by the way, my 3rd book is up here, American Manufacturing 2.0, What Went Wrong and How to Make It Right. It applies, the principles in here apply to any organization. It doesn't have to be a manufacturing company, and I'm not selling them, by the way. So this is just for you to take. You could probably use it if you're in a law firm. You can use it with your clients and so forth. I think you'll find it pretty enlightening. Well, why is it that most leaders think their organizations are like this? A string quartet playing beautifully together, everyone hand in hand, everything going along perfectly. Why is it most people think it's like that one? It's actually like this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Seen it? You've seen it? And why is it that most leaders think their organizations are perfect? You know anybody thinks that their organization is perfect? You don't know anybody that thinks that? When actually, they're the worst. Why is that? And why is it that most leaders think their employees are like this, and they're actually more like that? Why is it that most leaders think they have happy, productive, collaborative, efficient employees that work beautifully together when they actually have that? Ever see that? Ever work in an organization that's like that? I mean, not now, not here. I understand that, but somewhere, right? Yeah. It's the culture, stupid. It's the culture. Most leaders have no idea what I shouldn't say most leaders. Some leaders have no idea what the culture is all about. And whenever I talk to CEO groups and I say culture is the most important thing you can work on, their eyes glaze over and they look at me and they go, no, 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 no. I talked about acquisitions, punch press machines, joint ventures. Don't talk to me about culture. That couldn't possibly have that much of an impact. Any leader who thinks culture can't have much of an impact on the organization, I have 2 words: Wells Fargo. Right? Now they realize, now the CEO, well, now the ex-CEO, he had to prepare the 3rd envelope, right? Ex-CEO thought he had a culture. What was the culture in Wells Fargo? What were the value statements?
Aggressive expansion.
That's what their culture that was what their values really were. Now I don't expect you to know this because you don't work on this stuff like I do. Their top 3 values were ethics, I think, was 1, and doing what's best for the customer was number 2. Huh? So they had a culture, all right. It wasn't what I call the bumper sticker values. It was profit at any cost. And any organization's leader that doesn't pay really close attention to the culture is making a huge mistake, because most cultures are designed by default. It's a roulette wheel. It's a crapshoot. I don't know what the culture is. Who cares? Culture schmulture. It is what it is. And what they ought to be doing is creating cultures by design. Right? Because otherwise you end up like the Wells Fargo guy did. Or like this. And why are most cultures by default and not design? Because the CEO is a bonehead. The leader, the top person's a bonehead. He's what I call fat, dumb, and happy. Actually, I think, and I bought the image too for all you lawyers. That was in, I think I had this fellow featured on on the cover of my 2nd book, which is the $10 million employee, when your most toxic liability meets your most important customer. And I showed the cover to my mother, the cover draft to my mother, and this guy's on the cover, and then there's down like over here, or maybe on the back is a picture of me. And I said, what do you think, Mom? She goes, people are going to think that's you.
A terrific guy, very, very entertaining, very interesting, very condensed version about how to organize and operate companies. And I particularly appreciated his emphasis on the culture of a company as being probably the single most criteria for whether or not a company can succeed.
This is the culture. Anybody ever see this? You know what this is? Seen a Cirque du Soleil performance? Isn't it phenomenal? Now, what you don't see in a Cirque du Soleil performance is people dragging their butts in, wishing they weren't there. They can't wait to leave. You don't see in a Cirque du Soleil performance the guy that comes in is supposed to catch you. I don't know if I feel like catching you today, man. I don't know. I'm just not. It's a Friday, or is it a Monday or Friday car?
Monday.
Thank you. Monday car. I don't feel like catching you today. I really don't feel. You see a bunch of people who are jazzed up on the edge, wanting to do a better performance today than they did yesterday. Now, can you give me any reason why a leader doesn't want the organization to be like that? Can you give me any reason? I can. A lot of people tell me, yeah, but they're making widgets. They're litigating lawsuits. They're doing mundane stuff. Well, if they feel like they're doing mundane stuff and their job isn't valuable and what they're doing isn't making a difference somewhere, then you're doing a lousy job as a leader. It's not their fault, it's yours. So what happens is I speak to a lot of organizations and I say, tell me the organization's values. I wish I could have gone to Wells Fargo before. Tell me what your organization's values are. I'll get bumper sticker stuff. The mom and apple pie, and we stand for this and we're that, and by God, my mother would be proud. That 89% of the time ain't the way their values are. Their values are something more submerged than that. They may not even know what their values are, but what most organizations make a mistake about, A, not discovering what their values are, and if they like them, keep them. If they don't like them, change them. They don't do that. And I bet you if I asked everybody in this room, the organization you work for, what your values are, I would get an answer different than if I asked somebody else in your organization. And if the boss is in the room, we'll all say the same thing. These are the values. Now, I'm not going to go over all this. This just happens to be the values at Miller Ingenuity, what I call the 7 values of ingenuity. And this is a highly integrated system of how to really, really massively improve an organization's innovation and creativity and efficiency. I'm not going to go over all that because Harold asked me to talk about the leadership traits that are important for the future, and that's the first two, respect and integrity. Now, let's talk about respect first. Anyone know what this is? It's the boss commanding everybody down below. Youth, thou shalt be this, you will be that. But she's not that. And you have to always remember, people below will never do what the top does not do, and the top does not believe in. And people know what the top believes in, don't they? And how do they know that? Because of the way the top behaves. The top says, we stand for ethics and what's doing for the right for the customer, but he says, you better open up 2 million ghost accounts, you better do it by the end of the month or you're fired. In fact, they did fire 5,400 people, something like that. So the first thing you have to do is you have to start at the top of the organization, and you have to make sure that everyone at the top has respect. Not only for the employees, but for each other and for the customers. And because it isn't always that way, is it? Ever worked for an organization where the boss didn't respect you? Harvard Business School did a study of 20,000 people, 20,000 employees. Do you feel respected by your boss? Half of them said no. And you know what else they said? They said respect was more important than almost anything, including pay. Imagine that. Everything including pay. Now, why is it, now I'm going to ask you this, I want an answer now. Why is it that employees can't wait to get to the bowling alley, but they drag their butts into work?
It's work.
It's work. Any other ideas?
It's more fun.
Bowling alley's more. No, you're getting warm. You're getting warm.
Goes on at the bowling alley. They're not in control of what they're doing.
That's part of it. They get respect at the bowling alley that they don't get at work, that they may not even get at home. Why does somebody go to a certain stylist, a certain hairdresser, a certain barber? Is it because they're really that good? No, it's because, hey, how's your family? Nice to see you. What's going on? They could care less. Oh, yeah, oh boy. They get respect. They feel respected in places they don't at work. Why do people turn to labor unions? Because they're not respected. It's half those workers that the Harvard Business School reported on that aren't respected. And why do people turn to lawyers? Thank God they do, right? Because they're not respected. Now, you know, you have to start at the top and you have to say this kind of behavior of the top to someone below is just completely unacceptable. And you have to be willing to take out leaders that don't want to go along with the program. You have to, because you have to be respectful to people who work for you, people that work with you, and people that work below you. Now, same thing what happens in these two are yelling and arguing. You know, if people don't show respect for each other, how are they going to show respect for the customer, for the product, for the marketplace, for anything? I had a factory once where the language, when I took it over, the language was unbelievably bad. Vulgar. And I'm not talking hell, damn, and ISH, I won't say what. I'm talking the worst kind of vulgarity. And I made it, and how could people who speak to each other that way be productive? How could they possibly be effective when they were speaking to each other like they are on the right? So I made a blanket statement. I pulled everybody together. I said, from now on, there's a zero tolerance for vulgar language in the factory. Anybody that does it's going to get fired. You guys will love this. Boy, this would make a lot of lawsuits if I didn't do it right. Anybody who does it's going to get fired. And sure enough, first day, first afternoon, I had to fire 2 people. Next morning, I had to fire 3 more. By that afternoon, I wondered if I'd have a factory left. Wouldn't anybody be left? And you wouldn't believe it that the employees were arguing with me about their right to be able to use this kind of language. But it's a respect issue. It's not just the language, because how we treat each other, how we interact with each other is rooted in what? Language. Language. And language is the first pillar of respect. Now, that's what I love. The second trait, leadership style, is integrity in action. Integrity in action, integrity in communications. Let me give you everything you do, right? If you're a leader, the whole organization is watching you, aren't they? You may not know, they're watching you. Everything, well, you know this. Everything you do, they're watching. I once had a 1968, and that was it too. 68 cherry red Mustang. I love that car. It was just absolute. Well, the first winter comes along. One of my guys comes up to me in the factory, says, "Oh, by the way, we're going to pour a concrete slab and behind the building so you can drive your Mustang into the warehouse, the heated warehouse, and you can store it there for the winter." Oh man, great, great. Well, what's the concrete slab going to cost? $10,000. Oh, I love it. I'll have my car stored. I won't have to pay for it. I won't have to bother with it. I'm walking through the factory that afternoon. What do I see but one of our banners on the wall about one of our values, which is integrity. It hit me like a light bulb. If I did that and I let them store that car, could I do it? Of course I could. I'm the CEO. Do any damn thing I want. Would everybody know it? Absolutely. And what would happen to the value of integrity? Exactly. And integrity would be gone forever. Okay, great. So integrity's now gone forever. I can't ever talk about it. I can't ever have it. I can't tell people below that we're an integrity-rich company when the top doesn't have integrity, could I? So it hit me like a lightning bolt. I said, no, don't pour the concrete slab, and I'll just do something else with it, which I did.
Steve was great. I think that it's so critically important to have those key principles of integrity in the work that we all do, and that culture of leadership really setting the bar for their employees. And that's something that we want to see with all of our communities that we work with as well. Because without those champions and without those leaders, we aren't going to achieve the goals that we want to achieve.
I've had a wonderful time tonight.
Me too.
Call me tomorrow?
I'm going to send a vague text in a couple days that leaves you confused about my level of interest.
I'll wait a full 2 days before responding.
Perfect. We're never going to see each other again, will we?
No.
Wouldn't it be great if everyone said what they meant?
Wouldn't it be great if you worked in an organization that said what they meant? Wouldn't it be great if your leaders said what they meant? Wouldn't it be great if your leaders told you the truth? Ever worked for a company they didn't exactly tell you the truth? Well, I know you guys are mostly lawyers, so you've always worked in honest companies, right? Anybody ever have a situation where the leaders maybe weren't lying to you, but they weren't telling you what probably you needed to know because A, they thought you were too stupid to know what to do with it, right? Or B, just as often they're paternalistic. We don't want to hurt the employees. I'm on the board of a university, and one time we were talking a couple of years ago, of course public universities have been having a real hard time. The board was talking about having some significant layoffs. And I said, well, you know, what has to be, so how are we going to communicate this to everyone? Well, we're not going to tell them. What? Well, we're just going to tell them, you know, things are like a little tight, so why don't you tell them the major drivers to what's happening and why? Well, no, they won't like that much. Yeah, I got that part. They won't like that much. But if you don't tell them, and it happens anyway, what are they going to think about you then? Mm-hmm. More importantly, what are they going to think about what happens when something else goes wrong? How do I know every day for the rest of my life something isn't going to go wrong and they're just not telling me about it? So from a purely selfish point of view, you have to tell people what's going on. When you talk about integrity, rich communications, remember the 3 C's. You have to be clear, you have to be convincing, and you have to be compelling. You got to say it like it is. You got to be clear about it. You got to convince them that what you're saying is something they should do, they should believe in. You have to be compelling, otherwise you're just flapping your lips and nobody's listening to you unless you do a call to action. You convince them of something. So always remember that. Now, let's get back, pivot for a minute to what we're all here to talk about. As some of you know, maybe all of you know, the Safe America Foundation is on a sacred mission. Is it not? Sacred mission to protect our loved ones, sacred mission to protect our communities, sacred mission to protect our country. And I'm going to do my part. Anybody see this guy before? You know who this guy is? Some of you know I have this monthly column that I ginned up and have had for a couple of years now. I created what's called the League of Extraordinary CEOs. And every month, I interview a cool, extraordinary CEO. And I've interviewed him from as small as startups to as big as Bill McDermott, who's the CEO of SAP, and everything in between, and Mike Lindell. which gave more notoriety and a lot more interest and publicity to my column than it did before. So anyway, I sit down with them and I do an interview about how'd you do what you do, and the idea is other CEOs can learn from that. And the American City Business Journal has about 3.6 million readers. My column, near as I can determine, gets between 75,000 and 100,000 eyeballs a month. So I intend to use this platform. Now, to be a little careful how I do that, because my editor can always say, you know what, you're not supposed to be self-promoting like anything, except for the companies that you're interviewing. So it's conceivable that he might say, I'm not going to let you I doubt it, though. We're going to start off by introducing Len and interviewing him. He'll be able to tell his story, and it's sort of a Q&A kind of format, and then I have a transcriber put it into print, send it off to the editor, and then they publish it. And then we start getting reactions from that. So the way we'll start it is with that. And I think that's going to give it a big boost. And then the second thing we'll do, perhaps in the same column, maybe afterwards, I'll make a call to action to all CEOs out there that have products or services that have anything to do with safety or security. Come see me, we'll get you in the column, we'll get you promoted, we'll get you visibility and so forth, and guess what? That's going to be my net to snare more CEOs to the network. So I'm pretty optimistic. Len has a goal of, I think, 100 CEOs. I think I can do that. We have to make sure it's different from the kitchen cabinet stuff, because there's plenty of those around, where you get advice on marketing and sales and personnel and all that kind of stuff. So we have to make sure it's carved out in their minds as a quote-unquote kitchen cabinet for how to keep your communities, your companies, and your country safer. And I'm pretty optimistic I can do that. Also in your packet, just so you know, last year I hired a couple of experts to come in and train my employees on how to personal safety. Not jiu-jitsu and karate kind of stuff, but how to be observant around you, what to do if you get attacked and so forth. And I invited all the spouses to come in and participate in the training. So that's one of the things we've done. The other thing that I want to tell you about briefly is a couple of years ago, I repositioned Miller Ingenuity to focus on products that save lives, railroad employee lives, in the passenger rail and freight rail industry.
As a railroad manager, the safety of your workers is a major responsibility for you and your organization. We at Miller Ingenuity recognize the long-term personal and organizational effects of the loss of a coworker to a tragic accident. You already know the challenges your railroad managers face every day, including the monotony of watching for oncoming traffic where the slightest moment of inattentiveness can lead to human tragedy. Even a close call weighs heavily on everyone's mind. So how can the industry provide a safe work environment around the clock in all weather conditions and in geographical terrain, including tunnels and bridges? While the traditional method requires a watchman or lookout, or the placement of stopboards to protect your employees, what if the road workers possessed a technology that augments your current protection rules and could bring benefits like detection and identification of approaching rail traffic and the ability to automatically alert crew members of an oncoming train, regardless of weather conditions, geographical location, or the loud sounds from maintenance equipment? Personal safety that is no longer dependent on the entire organization, but is truly in the hands of the worker and the employee in charge. This eliminates the possibilities of communication breakdowns and the manual errors that sometimes lead to tragedy. Train slowdowns and stoppages are virtually eliminated because all members of the work team are fully informed of the approaching danger. The solution is a breakthrough technology from Miller Ingenuity called Zone Guard.
Looks like a very effective system. My guess is it would be cost effective because you're not having to do all the onboard electronics. Track worker safety is a critical issue, and this looks like a promising technology.
Well, I think it's great. In looking at the product, it appears to address a lot of the shortcomings of some of the current systems that are in place. I don't know all the specifics of our operating system, but safety is paramount for us. So this is a technology I definitely want to have our operating people take a look at.
So who is Miller Ingenuity, and what qualifies them to present this solution? Miller Ingenuity has been solving customer problems since our inception over 65 years ago. We have product development in our DNA with over 240 patents to our name. Today, our team of engineers in hardware, software, firmware, sensor, and communications continue our legacy with the development of ZoneGuard, soon to be the industry standard in roadway worker protection systems.
Very impressive. Looks like it's responsive, solves the issues that you have with railway workers out on the alignment, gives a big heads up to the operators, which I think is an important concept.
Here's how the ZoneGuard roadway worker protection system works. First, a train detection device built on fail-safe principles is positioned at the limits of the authorized work zone. These patent-pending detection devices have been tested in all weather conditions and at all hours of the day and night. Each member of the work team is equipped with a wearable device that receives a warning of an oncoming train with ample time to safely clear the tracks. In effect, ZoneGuard is creating a bubble of protection for every worker. The employee in charge is equipped with a special wearable device that allows a precautionary test to ensure that all workers are protected. The workers then respond on their wearable devices and are confident that they're protected. ZoneGuard protection augments the mandated protection rules and eliminates human error.
It's a great product, especially the product that helps to prevent all the accidents, and in light of the recent accident that had happened in the US and Canada, it's very essential to have something like that.
The ZoneGuard system automatically sends real-time status and reports to all dispatchers and others in the safety management chain. So what differentiates ZoneGuard from other solutions? Well, first of all, there's no onboard equipment necessary for the trains. This eliminates complexity, lowers costs, and improves safety. Second, unlike other worker safety systems, ZoneGuard is not range limited. Our system allows for miles of expandable zone coverage, ensuring that you're able to protect any length of track required. And finally, it grants peace of mind to the employee in charge as it ensures the work team is truly in the clear and safe after responding to their personal alert device. But will ZoneGuard be cost effective to your organization? Well, one preventable accident more than pays the annual cost. Compliance that goes above and beyond government regulations positions the company as an industry leader. And third, it becomes a competitive advantage in recruiting and retaining skilled workers.
Corman will continue to attract and retain the best employees, and having the best technology to go with it just makes it that much more valuable for the people to be there.
Thank you for watching.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your time and your attention.
Steve clearly speaks from history and from intellect and experience. He spoke very dynamically about integrity and respect as two characteristics that are key to the success of any business leader, the need to focus on corporate culture and to create a culture by design, not by happenstance. And those are very, very important concepts that resonated with everyone in the room.